Question number 6. So question number 6 wants us to match the exponential equation and the context, okay? So we're going to be using this form, okay? That growth means that we would be using this form, and decay means that we're using this form, but you're subtracting, not adding, okay? So when we read this information, we're going to try to determine if there was any growth or any decay, all right, that's happening to our initial value. So it says $5,600 is placed in a savings account with an annual interest of 6%. So this $5,600 is the amount that was placed in the account before any change, okay? So because it was placed in the account before any change, that would represent what your initial value is, all right? So that 5,600 is your initial value, okay? When I check my general form, because again, the general form is y equal a parentheses r to the exponent t, we do see that a, which represents the initial value, is indeed 5,600 for all of these options, all right? So for all of them, the initial value was correct, okay? So now we're going to look at what represents the rate, okay? So it says the savings account with an annual interest rate, okay? When you have an annual interest rate, an interest is money that you're gaining on top of the money you invested, all right? So when it says that you have an interest rate of 6%, it means that you're gaining 6%, all right? But if you're gaining 6%, you need to start somewhere, all right? So we always start at 100%. So again, I'm saying I'm going to start at 100%, and I'm gaining, so I'm adding 6%. That would give me 106%. But you know that your rate should not be a decimal, a percentage. It needs to be a decimal, all right? So we're going to convert 106 to a decimal by moving the decimal point that would be right here 2 times to the left, all right? So again, 2 times to the left like Beyonce. So 106% is the same as 1.06. That's the number that needs to be inside of the parentheses. So that's the number that needs to be in the parentheses, all right? So in the parentheses, I see 1.06 here. I see 0.06, so that's one's out, all right? Here I see 0.94, that one's out, all right? And here I see 1 minus 0.06. So you can actually put that in your calculator, all right? But you should know that if I'm subtracting from that one, there's no way I'm going to end up getting back this, all right? So this one would not work, all right? This would be my answer. And it makes sense. So again, it's what represented our rate, all right? And it makes sense because 8 was the amount of years that has passed. That was your time, okay? And was 8 the time here? Yes. And that is it, okay? So let's try to do the next question. So again, it needs to look like the form y equal a parentheses r to the exponent t, okay? So we know that a represents the initial. So again, we know from previous problem that a is your initial, all right? R is your rate, okay? And T is your time, okay? So when I read the question, it says a group consists of 32 aggressive zombies, all right? That 32 right there represents my A. It represents my initial value because that's the amount that we started with, all right? We started with 32 aggressive zombies, all right? So if we look here, this has a 32 for the A, this has a 32, but this did not. So this one is out because it has the wrong initial value. This one is also out because it has the wrong initial value. Here it has the initial value being 4, so that was incorrect, okay? The initial value was 32. It says that the zombies quadrupled in size. When you're quadrupling or doubling or tripling, you're not going to be adding, you're going to be multiplying, all right? So I'm going to be quadrupling. That means I'm going to be multiplying by what I'm starting with. I'm going to say I'm starting with 1. So I'm starting with 1. And if I quadruple means you multiply by 4. 1 multiplied by 4 is 4. So your rate comes from where it says it quadruples. That's what your rate is, all right? And that would mean that my rate would be 1 times 4. My rate is 4. So again, inside of this parentheses, I should have this number 4. So again, when you're seeing quadruple, double, that means you multiply, not add and subtract, okay? So again, because this was not a percentage, I don't need to convert it to a decimal. This is already okay. That should be inside of the parentheses. Here I see 4 plus 1. That's not correct because 4 plus 1 is 5. I needed 4 times 1, which is 4. So not plus 1. So that one is out. Okay. Here I do have a 4 right here. All right. So this would be the answer that I would select. So again, that would be the answer. It has the initial value being 32. It has the rate being quadruple, means that you're multiplying by 4. And then it says after 6 hours. So time should be 6. So the time is 6. And in this case, we saw that the time was 6. All right. So again, that would be the answer. So the next question. All right. So it says a new car is purchased for 28,600. All right. So that 28,600 represents the amount that you bought it for. It represents your initial value. All right. So again, that's your initial value because that's what you bought it for when you started to have that car. Okay. So when we represent it, it needs to look like the general form y equal a parentheses r to the exponent t. Okay. Where we know that a is the initial. So we know a is the initial. Okay. So when we're doing this, guys, we need to have our initial value being 28,600. When I looked at all of these, all of that had that initial value, that A in front of the parentheses being 28,600. So all of these could possibly work. So now I need to try to deduce what my rate is. So it says the value of the car depreciates, all right? Depreciates means you decrease, all right? So I'm decreasing at a rate of 9.1%. But for me to decrease, I need to start somewhere. So I'm going to be starting with 100%. And because I'm depreciating, it means I'm decreasing or I'm subtracting by that 9.1%. Okay. 100% minus 9.1% is 90.9%. All right. So we don't want a percentage though. We want a decimal. So I'm going to move the decimal point 2 times to the left like Beyonce. All right. So 90.9% is the same as 0.909. All right. So that's what the number that should be in the parentheses. All right. When I look at this one, this had that number, but we saw that it had it twice. So I'm not going to eliminate it as yet. All right. I'm going to hold on. Here, I don't see that number in front of the inside the parentheses. Because again, this number should be inside. So again, this number, all right, right over here should be inside of the parentheses. All right. It was not when we did 100 minus 9.1. That was a percentage that was decreasing. So we subtracted. Okay. That's how we got the 90.9. And we moved it 2 times to the left. All right. That's how we got 0.909. So again, that's not inside of this parentheses, so that's out. This has 1 minus 0.91, all right? That could possibly work, guys, all right? Because if you calculated 1 minus 0.09. All right, guys, as I said, if you were supposed to actually calculate what this is, 1 minus 0.091 actually does give you that number. So 1 minus 0.091 does give me 0.09. So that one actually could possibly work. All right. If the time is correct, this one could work. All right. So I'm not going to eliminate it yet. This one is out because we have 1.091. You should have 0.909. All right. So this one is out. Okay. So again, if the time is correct, then one of these, this one would be correct, all right? So the times, again, the rate, all right, was the 9.1, okay? My time is after 2 years. That's what represents my time, okay? So again, your exponent should be a 2, okay? Here, it does not even have an exponent. There's no exponent there. So this one is out, okay? Here, I don't see an exponent there, but I do see that this number that we need was written how many times? 2 times, all right? When you see an exponent, all right, that exponent literally tells you to write what you see in the parentheses 2 times. So this answer that you see right here can be rewritten as 28,600 parentheses 0.909. All right, that looks a little jumbled, so I'm going to rewrite it. So that could be rewritten as 28,600 parentheses 0.909 to the second power, because we see it 2 times, all right? So again, that's the same as with the answer we need. That would represent the result, all right? So again, guys, just like that.